All right, so welcome back to Real Auto Reports right here at Real Auto Ranch. I'm Jonathan McGrew, and today we have the Real First Impressions video edition on this 2013 Toyota 4Runner Limited. Now, this is a little different than our normal ones because there's a 2014 that has a redesign that's already been reported on and starting to get going towards dealerships. So you'll see it out on the Toyota website. Your questions and our information for you on this Real First Impressions is what would you want to look at the 2013 for instead of waiting for the 14? We'll let you know, so let's take a quick look. All right, so from the front, what you're going to notice about the 2013 Toyota 4Runner is that it's basically the same as the last year or two. Not a lot of change, and that's because the refresh for this body is going to happen for 2014. You may have already seen pictures of the much more radically designed front end. But what you're going to see is that this front end is a little more subdued. You've got the big blocky headlights, you've still got your turn signal and running lights down here in the lower bumper. And this structure is pretty urban. It's good. It looks strong, but it's not overly styled. Now for 14, you're going to see some of this design stay, but you're going to have squintier, sharper headlights. The stuff is going to move up into the headlights like the turn signal housing, just round fog lights in the bottom. And in the SR5 and the trail package, you're going to have this huge grille opening in the 14. It's not going to be as tidy. And then in the Limited, like we have here in 13, the 14 will have this strong chrome strip across the front. So my advice to you is that if you like the way this car looks from the front, run out and buy a 2013, because as you'll see as we go around, you're not going to see too much more differences than right up here at the front for 14. So from the side, what you're going to notice is that this is a strong, very flat-styled, slab side kind of vehicle. You still got your integrated running boards on the Limited. You have the chrome appearance packages along with the door handles. We have touch to open on the handles. You have turn signals in the mirror. But this is an interesting SUV because the 4Runner is still a body on frame. It's one of the dying breeds of these classic truck SUVs in the midsize SUV category. And really one of the few left that you can buy, and the only one that's in that kind of suspension frame body setup. So it's going to drive differently than most things on the market, and it's going to feel kind of old school and heavy. And, well, from the side, you get that impression that it's big. In the restyle over the years, it's gotten bigger, it's gotten wider. It really does have this big, muscular impression. And they're trying to take that a step further in 14. But from the side, if you like the way the 4Runner looks, there's really not a lot of difference between 13 and 14. So you won't be at risk there if you want to run out and get a year-end closeout on one of these 13s. But let's take a look from the back. All right, so from the back, the 4Runner has a lot of nice design cues back here. Of course, you have your lip spoiler back here for drag. You also get this hidden rear windshield wiper up here in the back and your third brake light. All good things, all pretty normal if you're used to the 4Runner over the past couple years. Nothing new to you. It's got nice accent strips of chrome here, your trailer hitch that's integrated into the bumper, and then of course you have your switches right here, which is a plus from previous generations because you don't have to put the key in to put the back window down. You can also lock all the doors by pressing the up button when you have the smart key in your pocket. So it's got a lot of nice features back here. And going into 14, it's really not going to change that much either. The thing you need to keep in mind about the 2013 versus 14 is it's a refresh. It's not a total throw out the design and put a new one in. So the biggest changes you're going to see are more clear taillights in 14 as opposed to this more red and clear version on this one. You'll see a little bit more clear accents back here than the solid red. And other than that, there's not going to be a whole lot of change. So again, side and back in 13, you're getting very similar to what you are in 14. Where you're going to see the most difference is where we're going next, which is inside. Now the other thing I want to point out before we go inside and take a look is that you are not going to have an automatic rear opener on these. This is very old school SUV. You have to open it, you have to close it. So let's go take a look at the inside. All right, so from the driver's seat, this is where you're going to see most of the change from 13 to 14. In this 13, I think the interior actually is pretty nice. And that's really because we're up here in the limited package. Remember, we're looking at a limited, top of the line. Pretty much everything you could ask for is going to be available in this vehicle. So we've got our touch screen, about 6.1 inches. You've got your sound system, which is all JBL. There's even the little party mode button back down here on this, under the start button, to throw sound at the back so you can have a party with the lift gate open. I mean, everything you could want. Dual climate control, your steering wheel controls. But where you're going to see a difference in 14 is that this whole center stack gets refined even more than it is in this 13. Even though this is pretty easy to read and reachable, they're going to move the knobs a little bit, make it a little more curvaceous in here, and the instrument cluster is going to change a ton. In this vehicle, you have a big center speedometer in a housing that's circular with the accent satin silver trim, then your tach and your other gauges like your battery, and all of that, fuel gauge on the right. In the new one, it's going to be a much more integrated instrument panel, and the gauges are going to be more, I think, a higher end looking design. And they're also going to have, the temperature and fuel gauge in the center at the top, and then everything around it with an information center that you then control from the steering wheel. So your steering wheel and the controls available are going to change a little bit as well. There's little subtleties like that in the 14. So remember, it's the front end and inside where if you decide to buy a 13, you're going to see the most difference when your friends buy the next model year up. But you might get the better deal, because when we go check out under the hood, you'll see that not a lot has changed for the 13 to the 14. So let's go check out what this 13 has. All right, so under the hood on this blustery Colorado day, what you're going to find is what is pretty standard to 4Runner fans. But if you're not used to the 4Runner, it is going to be your V6 engine under the hood, 270 horsepower. And this vehicle has had this kind of engine transmission combination for a long time. And by transmission combination, I mean a 5-speed automatic, and then of course your 4-wheel drive system, which is selectable there from the console inside. This vehicle in the 4-wheel drive mode, which is all we really see here in the Rocky Mountains because we need it when it snows. We might need it when it's windy to keep all 4 wheels on the ground like it is today, but this vehicle will do about 17 in city and 21 out on the highway, which is not too bad for this mid-size SUV, especially one with carrying the weight and the size that this vehicle does. But it's also going to feel old school. That's what I've heard a lot from a lot of people, is that this power plant's been around a long time. It's very sturdy, reliable, and will get you where you're going. But it feels like it runs out of gas out on the highway. It just doesn't have, with the limiting to the 5 gears, it doesn't have quite the pep that some of the newer SUVs will. You're not going to see the 6, 7, 8-speed transmissions in this yet. And you won't see it for 14 either, which is what I alluded to earlier. Really, under the hood in transmission and 4-wheel drive system-wise, the 14 is not going to change much. So you're not going to be giving anything up if you run out and buy a closed, year-end closing or a closeout deal on one of these 4Runners for 13. It's still a good-looking truck with a reliable, known motor, and it'll get you where you're going. And 17 in the city isn't great, but it also won't break the bank. All right, so hitting the road in this vehicle is actually a little bit surprising. But it's not going to change much when you drive the 14, so don't get too excited about the new one. Because as I said, really the 14 is a refresh on the already redesigned body that we're sitting in today. This body's a few years old. They have to do a mid-cycle refresh. It's just the way the car business goes. So when you get in, you're going to have cool things in this Limited like push start, the intelligent key, you have power seats and all of that. You have your shifter, everything's reachable. I can reach everything. It takes a minute to figure out the controls because there's so much in here, from the traction control up here and the anti-skid and all that stuff that it has on it. But when you drive it, you're going to be surprised at how nimble it feels. It has a nice steering feel. It's not going to get off the line very quick is the first thing I noticed. I kind of was like, do I have the parking brake on? What's going on here? That 5-speed, it feels like mated to this 270 horsepower V6, and with the weight this vehicle carries, kind of feels like it's lacking a little bit of torque from the get-go. But when you get it up to speed and you get into sport mode and you're shifting it and you're going along, you'd probably be surprised at how fast you're really going, because it's a pretty quiet SUV inside, and well, it drives like a truck. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is that your back passengers are not going to be in supreme comfort. It kind of wallows a little bit and bounces more and is a little stiffer than some of the other competitors out on the market, because it is that old style, body on frame construction. It's this old school truck. And remember, this truck is as old as I am in terms of a brand. 1984 was the first 4Runner, and here we are in 2013 model year and going into the 2014 model year. A lot of people are calling for a complete and total redesign of this truck. So if you like the way it is today, make sure you go drive one, test drive it, do it multiple times, and see what your first impressions are, and whether you like it the way it is or you want to see what they'll do to it in further model years to come. But remember, with the 14 refresh, that's going to be many years out, probably 3 or 4. So let's do the real wrap-up. So that's coming up next. All right, so that's the real first impressions on this 2013 Toyota 4Runner Limited. This is the 4-wheel drive. It's the top of the line, and it's going to cost you, as tested, well, anyway, from an MSRP perspective, about $44,000, just a little bit over. And I mean, that's right in the range of a vehicle with leather and push to start and navigation and dual climate control and all the things that this vehicle has. Now, we're a little surprised at this price point that it doesn't have things like the memory seats on this particular model, or looking forward to like having rear heated seats, but maybe that'll come in the future with a complete redesign. The question is, do you wait for the 14 or do you go ahead and buy a model year closeout 13? We're late in the year here with this review, and what I would say is, if you like this more subtle front end look, then you're definitely going to snap one of these 13s up right away. If you like the more aggressive, I mean, the design is definitely different on the front end for 14, then maybe you should stick around for our real first impressions next year when we see the 2014 Toyota 4Runner right here at Real Auto Ranch. I'm Jonathan McGrew, this is Real Auto Reports, and we'll see you down the road.